Nigeria's inflation rate rises to 28.9%, and this is according to figures from the National Bureau of Statistics disclosed in the NBS December 2023 Consumer Price Index, which was released on Monday afternoon. Now, the CPI measures the rate of change in the prices of food and services. Before Monday's release, the country's inflation rate was at 28.20, and that is as at November last year. Looking at the movement, the December 2023 headline inflation rate showed an increase of 0.72% when compared to that of November. Okay, so all of this is not quite doesn't make so much sense to the layman on the street. All right, so yesterday I promised on the program that Mr. Shokito will be on the show today. He understands all this 0.93% thing, and he can break it down for us, as to what this actually means, in terms of Naira and Kobo, in terms of how our daily rent is affected, as a people in Nigeria. 28.9%.
Well, I think the first good news is that a lot of people expected it to be worse than this. There were projections that would have hit 30% before the end of last year. Yeah. So this is the inflation for December 2023. So we didn't hit 30%. So that's some good news, whatever if you're looking for positive, exactly, in a very bad situation. But to the average layman, what this simply means is that the cost of goods and services the cost you paid for goods and services last month, as compared to the previous year, the cost of goods and services in December of 2023 has increased by 28.9%. And then if you look at the report, it breaks it down to the month on month. I think month on month we're talking of 7%, which means if you had bought something, a good that was priced at 100 naira in November, in December it's now priced at 107. And your reaction says it all. The truth of the matter is that we know it's far worse than that. It's worse than that. Gari alone, if you track the price change in a paint bucket of Gari over a 6-month period, it's almost 100% that it has grown by. But the inflation computation model takes a lot of things into account. And there are some things that maybe even the prices have gone down. It's an average. There are over 900, it's a basket of 900 goods and services, 970 something goods and services. Yes.
Has anything, the price of
there will be some things.
Really gone down?
Absolutely. There will be a few things, some services here and there, So some would have gone down, some would have gone up by 500%. And then, you look at the average. When you come up with the average, it says 28.9. So layman terms, it just means that things are getting more expensive. That's all. Now, there are people out there who will tell you, experts, who tells you that this 28.9 is not reflective of reality. As we all feel, we feel it. We know that it has to be higher than this. And the reason for that is that the components of the basket that I spoke about earlier. So that basket contains the different things that people spend money on: rent, clothing, education, healthcare, different parts of that. In healthcare, you talk about drugs, you talk about diagnostic services, you talk about hospital bills, you talk about consultation bills, physiotherapists, and all of that. So you put all of those things together and you compute an average, you conduct a survey that will help you get an average of the cost of those things. So there are people who say the last time that basket was reviewed was about 10 years ago. And there are so many goods and services that have come into play that didn't exist 10 years ago, or that were not as used as they are now, 10 years later. So that we need to update that basket, and there are some things in that basket that are no longer relevant. So we need to take them out, so that if we do that, then we'll get a more realistic picture of inflation. So as it is now, what this means is that government is actually planning with faulty data, and that will affect policy. Imagine if the reality is 45%, and we're thinking it's 28%. So the response of the finance ministry, the response of the CBN will be a 28% response, when our reality is 45%.
And then whatever effort they put in will not really make an impact.
Exactly, it will not impact the 40% situation. So all of these things are really delicate, and they're things that the NBS ought to pay attention to and make sure that their methodologies are correct. Imagine the NBS reviewing their unemployment methodology recently to say that unemployment is no longer 33%, but it's now 5%. You know, so the NBS is almost moving in the opposite direction. We're lying to ourselves. So the inflation is not correct. We need to review it to get a correct picture. So I think for me, that's a summary of our situation. What is driving it? I think it's important for us to also quickly talk about why. Why are prices going up? There are two major components. Is the exchange rate, primarily, and oil prices. Those two things are things that are almost out of our control, but exchange rate is not out of the control of government. Exchange rate management policies of government, they are getting it completely wrong. Exchange rate yesterday, parallel market, Mama P, 1,350, 1,330. Who could have imagined this just 4 months ago? You know, you would have, I, as an analyst, would have said, no, it's not possible. Just 5 months ago. But thanks to wrong policy formulation, poor implementation of potentially good policies and all that, here we are. So government needs to get a grip
I just need to ask this question. Sorry, I'm interjecting.
No,
if the Naira isn't appreciating due to this test trial by error we are doing, and all, why don't we just stop the Naira from falling? It's been falling. Like we're leaving it to float. Yeah. It's not floating. It's not diving. You know, why don't we?
President Mohamed Buhari, and it's sad. You know, when Buhari was president, everybody was insulting this man. That he's the worst president we've ever had. But here we are, as intelligent people who analyze and understand what's going on, thinking, hey, this guy did some things right. That man resolutely refused to devalue the Naira. This devaluation question has been on from the World Bank and IMF. They've been putting us under pressure for years. Under Buhari's tenure, from the first day he took office, 2015, IMF came forward and said, you have to devalue your currency. You must remove subsidies. On those two things, Buhari said no. It was a flat no. He refused to devalue the currency. He refused to remove subsidies. Now we can see why. You know, we are in a country where there is poverty. People can't afford these things anyway. Then you take subsidies away, you devalue your currency, look at the consequence. Now all of a sudden people are really impoverished. People that were surviving on 5,000 per day, 2,000 per day. Some of them, you know, so they gave direct feedback to the president, his own supporters, people that they used during the elections, saw him coming for Jumat on Friday, you know, on his recent video, and they were like, Ebin power, we can't eat, we're hungry, because that's their reality. So we have to give credit to President Buhari for refusing to implement some of these neoliberal policies that do not apply within our peculiar context in Nigeria, in particular, and Africa in general. Now, President Tinubu has embraced those policies with his two arms and his two legs, is grabbing around those policies and implementing them, and you can see.
But he is an economist.
Yes, because there is politics to economics. So President Tinubu is more concerned about the political economy. He is more interested in the acclamation and acceptance of certain interest groups. Those interest groups are not concerned about you and I. No. This is when I say no. This is a reality. This is not conjecture.
Still not a statement.
It's not a statement of fact. It's my
opinion.
Yes, but it's like not conjecture. The IMF and the World Bank, they represent interest groups. The lending institutions globally. Those interest groups, their interests can never align with the interest of the developing world. Because, you know, it's all about, they call it enlightened self-interest in political economics. They have their interest they are pursuing. Their interest is not your development. So you cannot take their advice wholesale. Just check out the economies globally that have done well, that are not Western. They did not follow the model of IMF or World Bank. China, Japan, India, those economies, Korea, add Korea to it. The Asian tigers, they don't follow this model.
Mr. Adegbe, so are we not to follow the model of IMF?
We must find ours.
And World Bank, when we are so indebted to them as it were.
Well, there you go.
There you go. So, I mean, who are we not to? Mr. Adegbe, you know, what worries who pays the piper?
The tune, sadly.
Okay, sad. But what worries me the most is the fact that price control, is out of the window. You go to the market in the morning, it's a different price. You go in the afternoon, it's a different price. You go 5 minutes past afternoon, it's a different. That is very worrisome for a lot of us, all right? Because you cannot plan based on what you have, because the prices are just, doing their yo-yo. And okay, I was engaging someone this morning, and she was telling me that a friend of ours made a quotation to a company, to supply them something, and then she put prices and all of that. And underneath the quotation in asterisks is prices are valid only for one day. As funny as that might sound, but it is our reality right now. Prices valid only for one day, which means if it goes beyond today, it's a different.
I have to give you a new price.
How do you think we can come around, all what we're going through in terms of controlling price and stabilizing our economy?
Number one, let me, in 2 sentences, let me wrap what Mr. Shokwiton said to our layman. It's very simple. Oga, whatever you are buying now, there is an increment in the prices of what you are going to buy next. So just get that one. That is what inflation is, a continuous rise, and it has not stopped because it's going to continue. So the one that is 28.92%, I can tell you, maybe we did not reach 30% now. Before December we will reach 30% now. We will cross it, and that is the thing. The day we said that dollar will be exchanged for 1,000 naira, some people say we are crazy, we are whatever. What it is now, and we are still moving on. One thing there is this: it's going to be very difficult for us to get from this quagmire. It's going to be very difficult because we are consuming nation. There are a lot of things that goes wrong in economies that one leads to another one. If there is high poverty in the land, it's going to affect your GDP. If it affects your GDP, your balance of trade also is one of the things inclusive. Per capita income is going to remove from there. And that is the thing. So now it's going to be very difficult because we are consuming nation. We are not producing. We are just consuming. And the more we consume, we better the economy of the producing nation. We make our own economy suffer. That one is one. Then two, also, what will have even make the SME to grow so that they will have engaged 1 or 2 people to be working. Those one also are going to be having money to save their own dependence, and the economy is going to be growing. Because one of the economy, we have macroeconomy, we have microeconomy. The microeconomy could be small, but there are a lot of people in that bracket. And the money exchange, if money exchange, then it grows along with it. And that is what the macro economy wants to grab on. So in our own case, we are killing the microeconomy. And if you are killing the macroeconomy is going to suffer, because one of the catchment area of the micro is the micro that we have. That one is one. Then two, people in government needs to put on another thinking cap. Now, factors of production are gone beyond land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. No, it has gone beyond that. People have left that. We are still using all those theory in the book. We have to create a theory that suits us, that will make us develop. Developmental economics as it suits us, not the one in the book. That's why you will see that majority of people, they will be comparing us with another country, but we are different entirely. Which country that there is a 2 exchange rate in that country? Tell me that country. And this distance is so wide like this. In South Africa, is in the airport and stipulated area you can exchange your money. Immediately you are coming with dollars, you exchange it to their own currency. You can't get it anywhere. Like we have every nooks and crannies. So we have to develop our economies that will safeguard us. Then another thing is that if we don't fight poverty, no matter what we do, it's going to be swallowing it. No matter what we do. And that is the reason why we are telling this particular government. But the problem there is a humanitarian ministry that's supposed to even be taking people out of poverty now. When they have some people to share fish, at the same time, you now see that person is kolo. Or you have that person to share meat, that person is kolo. And by the time you now put meat in front of kolo, Kolo has finished almost 90% of the meat. So, and that is one of the things there. So, it's not that one. So, one thing that is there is this. It is a high time that we must be serious about raising people out of poverty. When they are engaged, they are also working. They will contribute to the economy, and the economy will grow. So, and that is the thing. The other thing again is that we need to stop corruption. If we don't stop corruption, look at the money. If you say, okay, this money for infrastructure, if 80% of it has gone, it's only 20 to get to that infrastructure. We can only see development of that 20%. We are killing infrastructure. If there is one for health, and the corruption has taken 80% out of it, 20% is to the health. We can only get the improvement from health only on 20%. So one of the things that this government needs to do is to look at the aspect of corruption. One of the things that corruption has done to our country is so endemic, to the extent that it has eaten during the, in fact, do you know that the number of people that want to steal Nigerian government, that have mind, that they still want to steal Nigerian government, are more than those people that are stealing it now? So if you now have that kind of situation, everybody, if you get somebody to start work with you, the first thing that person wants to do is to steal, that will make sure that that business is cashed. And that mentality is what the mentality of the civil servant. So if we go in that particular light, then another thing, our people in public office, they are even the worst. This dollar that we are talking about, do you know a lot of public office holder that immediately they get whatever that is budgeted for them, they change it to dollar? Tell me which poor Nigerians have license for bureau de change? None. It's for all the majority of all these wealthy people. So when you see EFCC going into the offices and whatever, not that EFCC is crazy. No. Because majority of them have turned to a bigger and conglomerate of bureau de change. And with that, there is no way our Naira can develop.
Thank you, Mr. Adegbenro. Thank you so much. You know what makes this so sad is the fact that even the government who should come from the angle of cushioning the effect, you know, of the inflation, you know, they can't, I want to believe, are they helpless? They can't do anything about it as well. I'll give you an example, all right? If you visit a government hospital, I have this on authority. If you go to a government-owned hospital, they have increased the price of the amount of their card.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
If also in a government-owned enterprise, you know, you are also experiencing, you know, the inflation, then what is left for the common man on authority? One of the general hospitals in my local government,
at our backyard,
local government, increased their card from 300 naira to 700.
That one even better.
Right, so
oxygen. If you know how much they are collecting for oxygen now,
supposed to get by.
So I think it's important for us to also paint the positive side of this and what government can do.
Okay.
One major development that I think can impact inflation in the short term being 6 months, maybe 1 year, is the Dangote refinery. Why? Prices of petrol will not go down. So anybody expecting that one, forget it. Where we are.
No, it won't. Even with all our refineries.
Even if all our refineries work, based on the model,
yes,
the price is the price, because, and that price is still subsidized, let's be honest. Because
yes.
If you look at the price of the international price of refined petrol, it's about $1.2, $1.3. Do your conversion at the exchange rate, whether official or parallel, and you see that we're talking of 1,000 something,
yes,
you know, per liter. So not in terms of prices. However, because we are going to be, hopefully, if Dangote refineries operates full capacity, or Port Harcourt refinery also joins and we have full capacity, do you know the percentage of our import bill that is oil, petrol, refined product based? About 40%. Now, how are you financing that? Dollars. So the demand pressure on dollars versus the naira is driving the devaluation of our currency just from that industry alone. 40%. So if we assume that Dangote refinery will operate full capacity, Port Harcourt will also join it, and we are self-sufficient for refined products in Nigeria, and therefore we can reduce that 40% to maybe 10 of the things that we no longer import. That's a 30% pressure of our import bill. Okay. So that will have an immediate revaluating effect on the value of the naira. The second thing that I think that government should do as a matter of urgency and priority is to look for how to encourage farming to become mechanized and for us to add value to the farming process, such that we do not need to import as much food as we're importing right now. We're still importing 10 to 15% of our import bill is from food products, rice, oil, chicken, fish, all those things. So if we're able to find a way, there is none of those things that we can produce locally. None. Yeah. So if government is able to channel resources, encourage private investment in those sectors so that we can be self-sufficient locally, and that can be achieved within a 1 year period, the pressure of demand and supply on exchange rate will also go. Plus, of course, we know that food inflation is a major driver of inflation. So as it is now, 33%, our food inflation is 33%, way higher than the headline inflation of 28%. Yes. So imagine if we can produce our food locally and we're self-sufficient, that pressure will reduce significantly. So those are two things. The Dangote is already on stream, hopefully, that's what we're hearing. So let's hope that they can achieve full capacity within 6 months. And then if government can energize the agricultural sector, mechanize it, so that 80% of our farming is not coming from smallholder farmers, which is the fact now, but 80%, or maybe, 80% coming from mechanized one, while 20% is coming from smallholder, then we can really make a significant impact on inflation, on the value of the naira and all of that. So that's on the positive side, and for us to know that the situation is not hopeless. There are things that government can do. One has been done, and then there's a second one that can also be done within a short time frame, and we'll see an impact almost immediately.
Omapi, Mr. Sopiton, fantastic submission. But sir, it won't work. The reason why it won't work is it's very simple. Okay, Dangote refinery is not for Nigeria.
Yeah, but they must supply Nigeria.
They can only supply Nigeria the percentage as agreed, Abi.
No, and as supplied crude oil.
Fine. The thing there is, I understand. One thing there is that we are not supplying them crude for free.
Of course.
Good. Don't forget, they have an agreement with some certain African countries and foreign companies. Now, there are some airlines now, 8 of them that have been having suppliers now, they have with them. That means they are not going to supply only us, they are going to supply all those airlines too. In that particular capacity is this. You are supplying crude to them, they are paying you. The percentage you have out of their own portion, they are going to give you no problem. And this is the same Nigeria that we know. They still want to export part of the one they get from whatever. So which one are you going to use to consume Nigeria? The other thing again is this. If we have a very good book, what I mean good book that are so effective, it's possible. But I'm telling you, part of the 20% Nigeria is going to collect as a country, as part of the owner of that particular one, they are going to sell at least nothing less than 15%. Let me just say 15%. 5% that is going to be on board. Can you circulate us? And don't forget another thing again in terms of mechanized farming. Look, is it the same farmer that cannot go to farm? Is it the one that is paying?
That has to be taken care of.
If insecurity is not taken care of,
has to be taken care of as well.
Because
he said government has
the same insecurity that have not been taken care of 8 years under general in the Nigerian army. Okay.
Order at the table.
Okay.
Gentlemen.
It can be done.
Mr. Adegbero, let's keep a positive.
No, I don't waste my time in keeping hope that is hopeless.
The truth must also be spoken. So I appreciate what you're saying.
Right?
But the reality is that these things can be done.
It can be done, I agree.
That it must be put out there so that government knows that we believe that these things can be done.
Okay.
So they should do it.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. All right, fantastic analysis of the inflation rate that has gone up according to the NBS. All right, and in terms of breaking it down to the layman language, it's about increase in price of literally everything. That's once again. God will continue to give us the strength to push through.
Right, pusher.
Very interesting right now as Nigerians. And really, I doff my heart to people who live particularly in Lagos. Us, Lagos.
Yes, he's not here. We're supposed to get an extra certificate.
It's not easy, all right?